Okay. Marty,
Yes, sir.
welcome to the very, very first episode of my own show called Impact Show. Okay?
It's an honor.
Why are you the first guest? Because you are the person that has created the most impact in my life and you don't even know it. So I thought I would interview you first. You and I are both Chapman grads. We're both Villa Park High School grads.
Yes, sir.
And we are kindred spirits, so I was really stoked that you took me up on being on my very first show.
Absolutely.
So the whole idea of Impact Show came around all the conferences that we've done around the world for the Internet Marketing Association. I'm thinking, gosh, we've had Elon Musk come to one of our events. We've done an event once with Mark Zuckerberg at his house. We've had some of the greatest thought leaders of our generation come speak on our stage. People making impact not just in their industries, but on people's lives. And what was really cool is as our board came together this year at the Internet Marketing Association, we thought, instead of just talking about internet marketing, let's weave in some stories of overcoming challenges, personal, professional, where the impossible actually became possible. So people were able to put their minds in a new place and actually be able to back it through relationships and work and such. So that's how I came up with the idea of coming up with the show and interviewing guests on a monthly basis for 30 minutes. And so I'm really inspired by so many things that you do for our industry and just the world. And I thought I'd have you be on my show as my first guest. And I think it'd be really cool to learn a little bit about you. So maybe you can just start a little bit about your background, where you grew up, how you grew up. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, I'm a product of Orange County. Grew up, born and raised in Anaheim Hills. Always had a board under my feet. You know, I was always out in the cul-de-sac, skateboarding, snowboarding, surfing. Always doing those things. Sports was a major, part of my life as well. Had 3 older sisters, so I never really got beat up by the older brother. I always got pinned down, my eyebrows tweezed and dressed up, so that was always fun. But, it was a great life. I had a great family, they've always meant a lot to me. And, as time went forward and, things moved on, action sports became more prevalent in my life. I knew that was something I wanted to do in college. So ended up taking snowboarding into college at the University of Colorado at Boulder.
Nice.
After 2 years, moved on and started playing volleyball. Did my last 2 years there as well. And, after that, it's been a relentless pursuit, man, of finding myself professionally, finding myself as an individual. I've worked in a number of industries and a number of things, but, I've always been that crazy competitive guy.
Right.
And always loved, having an impact on people's lives, no matter in what capacity, but always trying to, do the best I can.
That's awesome. I had an older sister too, and I kind of know what it's like, right? And there were times where she would put her shoulders up on, her knees on my shoulder blades, and I couldn't move my arms at all, and she'd stick her hair in my face. I mean, do these torturing things.
Hair everywhere.
It's crazy,
All the
right?
time,
I mean, they got
yeah.
that long hair, and it's just in your face. It's not cool at all. But her and I stay close, and it's definitely a loving relationship. So you grew up in Orange County. You went to Boulder, you said, did some snowboarding. How did you end up at Chapman? Tell us your journey there.
Yeah, Chapman was one of the best things I ever did for myself. So in 2012, unfortunately, I suffered a spinal cord injury. Long day out in triple-digit heat, got dehydrated, and just went from one thing to another, and my body ended up giving out on me. Stood up on a staircase, just lights went out, and I fell down. That's when the injury occurred. And after that, I applied all of that, athletic intuition that I had to just apply myself and push and push and put everything I did into physical therapy. But it just, over time, was apparent that physical therapy wasn't the answer that was going to solve all my problems. Although it put my body in a better place, I knew that I needed to focus on my mind and work on that mental strength. And so I wanted to kind of put a shock to my system and really just take on a challenge that was more than I thought I could take on, but I needed that. I needed that, that mental challenge, and grad school was the thing for me. I knew marketing and entrepreneurship were something that I had always had an interest in. I thought it was something I had a knack for, and so I had gotten lined up with a scholarship actually through USC. Strangely enough, they had a scholarship fund for injured athletes called the Swim with Mike organization, and they helped me get back to school. Ended up going to Chapman, and you know what? It was the hardest but the best 2 years I could have ever done for
Right.
myself.
So here you're snowboarding, larger than life, you're going out, you're with your friends, and then you suffer this injury. Can you walk us through the mental framework as to how you stayed motivated through this challenge and how you were able to overcome what I think many of us would feel like impossible odds?
Yeah, well, I mean, not to be cliche, it was absolutely a roller coaster because at first, just being who I was and everything that I had been doing, I was almost in denial. It was just, okay, this is going to pass. I'm going to, push harder than anybody else like I always do, and I'm going to get through it. But this is something that was something that could finally really kind of sit me down, for lack of a better word. And it really just put me in my place and allowed me to really have to look at the big picture and start reevaluating myself in a number of ways. Because not only could I not rely on myself to do the things, for me that I needed to do, I had to ask other people for help, and, just being stubborn and having pride, you don't want to do that. I feel like a very independent person, and now having that taken away, it strips you of a lot of confidence. And that was the hardest thing for me to gain back, because I had always been a confident guy. I like to carry myself with swagger, and just being athletic and surfing and all these things. It's a way that you carry yourself. And now being limited to a chair or just by yourself in bed, it's you're forced to confront the demons that you're faced with and really spend a lot of time listening to your own thoughts. And that's when I knew I had to really do some introspection and find ways that I could start rebuilding my mind and making it stronger.
Right.
And it was a process. It goes from being high and thinking you're gonna get through it to really being down in some really dark places. And it was a really difficult period of my life, and it lasted a few years. Honestly, I could keep it together on the surface with friends, going out and trying to be still a happy guy and fun person to be around, but I was still battling some pretty challenging things. And not many people know that actually had been something I dealt with before my injury as well. But something I could just kind of cover up. But now it was something that was just totally apparent every minute of every day, and I had to face it. So I started taking on little tasks, little challenges, trying to find small victories, and doing the things that I never would have done before. And it's leading to some cool things.
And I think that's a great takeaway, with the challenges that we all go through personally or professionally, whether it's physical or emotional. I think what you just said right there is break it down into really small goals and just focus on that, and not just the big picture, but break it down into small goals. I think that's a great message that we can send out. Now, bring me through a little bit. We've got the sort of mental strength, and then we have the physical strength, the relationship between the mind and the body. The body can be strong, the mind can be weak. The mind can be strong and the body can be weak. Talk us through a little bit of that dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. It's when my body was stripped down to nothing, that's when I realized my mind was so weak. I could always get by on, hard work and drive, but then when, everything I kind of prided myself on, I guess, was just mostly on the physical side, things that I could just get around. And now here I am confronting these demons, and they do go hand in hand. But I didn't realize how weak I was until this accident occurred. And so, moving forward, as the injury progressed and I kept doing physical therapy, I would, it's those small victories again. When you work so hard for something, and in this capacity, you've worked out before, you've exercised, you try and find a little bit of gain, maybe you lose that pound, maybe you push up that new weight on bench press that you've always wanted. But for me, it was really working 10 times harder for 10 times less, that showed. And that became mentally straining as well. And, I had to find that balance now. It wasn't just achieving, mental strength through, physical accomplishment. Now it was the things that was okay, you have to tend to things that were actually a problem. And you have to find new ways to do that. And, the stress that it puts on you in this capacity of forcing patience upon you because
Right.
you can't do things for yourself, having to ask people,
Right.
not being able to work out the way you want
Sure.
as well, and
Yeah.
just the amount of effort required and everything, it's taxing. And so you have to start searching for those new ways.
Right.
And, I think asking for help is one of the hardest things someone can do. But you don't get anywhere by having that pride and trying to figure things out for yourself
Right,
all the
right.
time. And for me, relying on friends, family, and even therapy to tend to some of those difficult times, whether it be depression or anxiety, and
Right.
just venting out my frustrations
Sure.
in general,
Yeah.
and I think it's not just in my specific, story or capacity, it's anybody, no matter what they're going through, whether it's professional, whether it's personal, in a relationship or anything. That willingness to be vulnerable is a very hard thing for people to do.
Right.
And we need to understand that once you can submit to a problem, it's not giving up. You're just, you are finally setting yourself free of
Yes.
the things that have been holding you back for so long. So it almost seems like a step backward at first,
Right.
but really you're empowering yourself to tend to the things that have been, taking hold
Such
of
a
you for
great
so long.
message. Address the problem at its core. Release yourself from that anxiety, that fear. That's an awesome message. We're going to get to your film in a second, but in the trailer, there was this one sticker on your refrigerator somewhere that I say where it says something like, "When you think you've arrived to hell,
Yeah.
keep pushing." Now,
Yeah.
explain that, because I
Yeah.
think we've all gotten to that point where we're just like, I want this over with.
Yeah.
I can't face this anymore. I want out.
Yeah.
How do you get over that hump and continue forward? Can you explain that?
Yeah, so it's that Winston Churchill quote, if you're going through hell, keep going. Honestly, this is something that has truly changed my life. And it's whether I like it or not, because I really don't have a choice in this position. It's something that now I do choose to take on more challenges.
Right.
At first, the challenge was just dealt to me, and I had to deal with it,
Right.
and it was just nothing I could escape, I couldn't walk away from, and it was really freaking hard,
Yeah.
honestly. And
Yeah.
you know what? But as time goes on, and it sets in that this is what you have to deal with,
Right.
and once you start addressing those things
Sure.
and taking them step by step, it breaks you down, but you get to break your problems down into little bite-sized pieces and
Right.
address them, and you find small victories. And that's the thing. It's pain is something that we tend to run away from. Right? And especially pain that we choose. Whether it be challenges or taking on a new role that we didn't want, or
Right.
something in that regard. These are the things that actually push us forward.
Right.
You think of a muscle, right?
Right.
Think of a muscle. Without it being challenged or broken down, it doesn't grow.
Right.
Unless you go to the gym or run or do any of those types of things. It's the same with our mentalities. And until you can learn to break yourself down
Yeah.
in a way in order to build yourself up,
Yep.
that strain, that stress, but it's all put to a positive purpose.
Right.
That's the biggest thing someone can do for themselves.
So take me through MBA. You're at Chapman. How do you take all this, and where do you go with this?
Yeah. First of all, Chapman, it was a challenge. It was a challenge, and I relished in it. I hadn't been able to compete anymore physically, and so I get to Chapman, and now the competition it's mental.
Right.
And it's endurance, and it was something I didn't have a lot of because I get tired pretty quick.
Right.
And it's a lot of mental strain. In grad school, but now I look at all these other students, not just as friends, but now as enemies,
Oh,
and
yeah.
as competition,
Sure.
not enemies, but competition. And it was something that was the switch that flipped for
Sure.
me.
Nice.
That's when I knew I'm going to take this stuff forward, right? And
Yep.
so as I go through grad school, I start hitting, I hit roadblocks, and it's tough, and then I find new ways to do it, and I start achieving some success. The success builds on itself, and it builds on itself, and now I'm opening myself up to what I'm capable of.
Right.
So I go through grad school, I graduate, and I do better than I've ever done in my life, and I think
Awesome.
it's because along the way I learned to challenge myself in ways that had beyond what I'm already dealing with,
Right,
that
right,
you
right.
can see.
Yeah.
those are the things that I think really allowed me to flourish. I ended up with a 3.93, better than
Nice.
I've ever done. I was the nominee for the most outstanding graduate student. A lot of fun things it blew my mind.
That's awesome.
So it was an amazing experience. But now moving forward, it's okay. Now it's time to choose a career. Now it's time to make something my life. And for me, I'm no longer going to settle for anything.
Absolutely.
And I'm no longer going to coast through anything because that's not who I am. And I know it wouldn't do my potential justice to sit here and accept the circumstances in front of me or an opportunity that's easy.
Right.
I choose the difficult things now because win or lose, I learn. And from that, I can push forward.
So where are you moving this professionally? Tell us some of the career path that you've taken and some of the personal brand that you've been doing and some of the messaging on stages and such.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about your career path?
Absolutely. So right out of school, I linked up with an old buddy of mine that was from the snowboard team at the University of Colorado. They had a booming startup going that used action sports to empower at-risk youth.
Awesome.
And I was handling business development for them for about 2 years.
Oh, cool.
And it sort of evolved into more of like a marketing and events role. And that was really fun and cool. And that's where I got linked up with one of my interns who ended up making the film Relentless.
There you go.
And I know we'll get into that a little bit, but since that time, I've moved on and I started my own creative agency. Many people don't know I was actually a film studies undergrad at Boulder.
Okay.
And now I'm kind of coming full circle on the creative side. So I'm
Very
using
cool.
that marketing and entrepreneurship MBA that I achieved from Chapman, and now bringing the creative side in. So now we're kind of packaging content for people,
Very cool.
marketing it, and like providing consulting and business development.
And what's the name of that
And
business?
that's MOCA,
MOCA.
Marty O'Connor Creative Agency.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so
I may need to outsource some work to you.
Yeah,
Okay.
hey, absolutely, bring it our way.
All right.
Other than that, I'm writing a book
Sweet.
as well, called Back in Action.
Back in Action.
Yep, should
All
be
right,
done
cool.
in the next couple months here. So
Awesome.
fingers crossed. And, that's just, it's sort of just drawing on my experiences and, the mental transformation that I went through and providing people the strategic roadmap to turning your adversity into your advantage.
Right.
I just want people to know that like your circumstance is not your sentence.
Right.
And you could use whatever's holding you back, whatever difficult things you're going through to actually propel you forward.
That's
you
epic.
just need to channel your mind to do so. And so I try and help people with that.
This optimistic energy where is the root of that? Where does that come from? Because it is so unique as a characteristic to be able to step over so many things that are going on. Where's the root of that positive energy come from?
This may be a turn here, but I feel like it was rooted in the darkness that I felt for so long.
And was that before your injury or
Before my injury?
Okay.
I was always very, very hard on myself.
Okay.
I always pushed myself. I was a good, fun time, good guy to be around, but like inside, it was perfection or nothing.
Right.
It was either perfection or failure, really. So anytime, I screwed up in sports, I would just beat the heck out of myself.
Right.
And, snowboarding, same thing. And I really, when you try so hard to be perfect, I hold myself back from being willing to fail, right? And so when I was put in this position, I was forced to fail so often that I realized that was what was actually pushing me forward.
Right. Okay.
Right. And it was learning these new ways to do things and just learning to take chances. Right. And so now I've been able to take that and get those small victories. And I've had a lot of losses and failures along the way.
Right.
But I know that it's all pushing me forward as long as
amazing.
I continue to take those chances
Right.
and those risks. Right. And so now I'm not that risk averse, just as much as I was on my snowboard. Now I'm willing to take chances to push my life forward, and whether it works out or not, I know that I took that chance, and I'm gonna be okay no matter what.
That's awesome. So take me through Relentless. We got the creative agency going. You got your MBA.
Yep.
You got your undergrad. You got your positive energy.
Yep.
You got your personal thought leadership.
Not to mention the podcast.
And the podcast.
I got the podcast. So we call that Wheel Talks.
Talk to me
it's
about
funny.
that.
So it's a
Okay.
good buddy of mine, Sonny Casebauer. We met at the gym. He was coming to the Goodwill gym. It's an adaptive fitness center, and we
Nice.
met there. We just really hit it off. And he has been the one guy that has really clicked with me on a mental standpoint.
Right.
Him and I both have this, kind of no BS outlook and just pushing through things. And we're both fun. We like to banter and roast each other a bit, and with that, we just want to show people that, again, going back to your adversity can be your advantage.
Right.
We want to draw on our experiences to help lift people up, and just share stories of empowerment, showcasing other people's stories as well.
Oh, that's great.
So, that'll be dropping soon as well. But yeah,
Great.
that's the other thing.
In our last 5 to 10 minutes here,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about Relentless. How did you come up with this idea and the production of it? I mean, I was so impressed by the trailer.
Thank you.
We showed it at our Impact Conference. Obviously, we had a lot of the right people in the room that took immediate interest in it. And I think this is going to have some great cascading effects in a positive way for you. Tell us a little bit about Relentless.
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea actually started with a former intern of mine when I was doing business development. She was handling some marketing for me, and she was a senior film student at Chapman University. She was doing her thesis, and her and I had become friends throughout the course of that internship, and she took an interest in my story. And I think we wanted to take Relentless in a direction that, again, just it showed what transformation can occur regardless of your circumstances.
Right.
And she just had such a great creative vision. I think we had a great professional chemistry working with each other.
Awesome.
And the friendship that goes, behind the cameras and behind the scenes really allowed her to ask the questions that would allow me to be vulnerable.
Right.
And get conversation out that really could do justice to my story and showcase what I've been through and where I've come from and where I'm going now.
Awesome.
And it's been incredibly successful, something we never imagined.
Yeah.
We were a nominee for a Student Academy Award, which is amazing. And we've gone to a number of film festivals and showcases. Actually got one this weekend.
Wonderful.
And we're planning on taking the thing on tour.
Great.
To colleges, universities, rehab centers, and businesses through 2020.
Awesome.
And not just the screenings, but I want to spread my message and help people. And she can do the same thing for the younger crowd. And just going through college trying to figure things out. It's pretty tough. You think you have it all figured out, but you don't.
Stages
I know that,
in life. Oh yeah.
And so we want to take this thing on the road and really, I want to speak my mind and really help people. And the success of the movie will rely on the impact that we have on people's lives.
Right.
I think the documentary itself is incredibly impactful.
Yeah.
Even though it's my story, it's kind of weird watching myself up on the big
awesome.
screen. But I think there's a lot of messages that transcend audiences, not just the disabled community, but the professional community, just individuals going through their own struggles. There's something for everybody, and I think it's something that'll do really well.
In 2010, I founded the Anaheim International Film Festival. It was a one-year, one-hit wonder. Disneyland Resort was our partner.
Nice.
And of the 300 films that we showed, the documentaries are the ones that I was really drawn into. And I really think that the future of film is really going into these short formats. And you look at this company called Quibi that Meg Whitman's starting. They've raised billions of dollars, and this company is going to be coming out with very short, high-quality videos and documentaries. And that seems to be the wave of where things are going in the digital commerce of
technology.
video.
Everyone's a filmmaker. You got it in your pocket.
You got it in your pocket, right? 1 minute, film you can create. Well, let me just say how humbled I am to have you as a friend. As someone who's made a huge impact in my life, I go through valleys. I've had some tough blows this year. We all do. And if we don't really face those realities, then who are we to ourselves and to our communities? And to be able to reflect on some of the things that you've been through has really shed a lot of insight to me. And as you know, running KCOM, the IMA, IEC, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of professionals that we're in front of. And to be able to channel your story and stories like yours to our community is so important to me. I'm just the medium. I'm the catalyst, right? And so you've got our resources and our commitment to continue putting wind beneath your wings to help your story fly, because if it's not one, it's 100, and if it's not 100, it's 1,000 people's lives that you impact. And being on our stage in Las Vegas and seeing the cascading effect that happened in that room and how that's been able to transpire among all those organizations. These are big billion-dollar companies like Microsoft and Amazon that you're now in front of. And I just hope this film continues to hit as many screens as possible, because it really does touch everyone's heart and soul, and it lets them pay it forward to their community. So we're very stoked to have you as our first guest, and really appreciate all of you for listening to our first Impact show. We're going to be doing this on a monthly basis, 30-minute shows on individuals creating impact to their industries and society. And I thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.